Some of you say America's systemically racist while cranking out more black billionaires. Welcome to the Rob Lett Show. I'm your host, Rob Lett. We call these segments Soapbox News. They're current events I felt compelled to get on my soapbox about, but it's also your chance to get on your soapbox in our comments section. Why Kevin Hart wants to be a billionaire. That's the focus of today's Soapbox News. We got a lot to unpack here today. I ran across this interesting interview with Kevin Hart where he revealed he wants to be a billionaire and why. A few interesting tidbits came out of that interview, so today we're going to tackle, does America really despise billionaires? Why does Kevin Hart want to be a billionaire? Do blacks have a responsibility to take care of our people? And is America systemically racist? But before we get started, I'd like you to go ahead and do a few things. First of all, like this video, subscribe to it. If you're on YouTube, to the upper right-hand corner, you're going to see a bell. That's a notifications bell. Click it, and it'll notify you the next time we release a new show. If you're on Rumble, though, to the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a share button. Click it, and it'll share this video with a friend of yours who should have been here today. Go ahead and do all of those that apply right now. While doing a promo for a new Netflix series, Kevin Hart did an interview with Charlamagne, and it turned out to be pretty interesting. They touched on a few subjects I considered making a podcast about, but since this happened recently, I figured this would make a better fit for Soapbox News. There was so much that got said in that short interview, some that I agree with, some that I don't, but here are just a few clips I thought would make for an interesting, deeper conversation.
Now, I've heard you say you want to be a billionaire.
Yeah.
In a country that despises billionaires,
Yeah.
Why do you want to be one?
You know, it's more about the title that comes with it, but honestly, it's about the people that come from where I come from, understanding that it's doable, right? Like, you know, it's a dream, and the dream isn't about the dollar, it's about the achievement, right? So I don't want people to misconstrue the money side of it, right? I'm not supposed to be where I am. I'm a statistic, or supposed to be a statistic. I'm a young black man from North Philadelphia. So when I go back to North Philadelphia and I look at other young black men, if I go back with a said title and a said level of accomplishment attached to me, I'm going back and I'm shaking the hands. And more importantly, I'm letting you see what reality is. Reality is that it's harder for us. It's not easier for us. But if we want to obtain something and we put our mind to it, we can. And if I want to be a part of real change, well, with that dollar, your change starts to be different. You know what I mean? Your impact can be different. So that's what that's about.
If you're familiar with Charlamagne's background, you know he's an instrumental part of a radio show called The Breakfast Club, who I jokingly refer to as the Leftist Club. I totally disagree with Charlamagne's first comment that America despises billionaires. He sees the world from the view of his socialist buddies professing to hate billionaires, all the while attempting to be one. However, if we're honest about most Americans, far from despising them, we are and always have been fascinated with billionaires. It's fashionable to hate Trump now, but I can tell you part of the reason why Trump was able to get away with putting his name on virtually everything is because the public loved Trump and anything associated with his name. I'm not just talking about rappers either. I'm talking about everybody. How soon we forget Trump was in Pizza Hut commercials. You don't put people in your commercials because they're despised. Think about Jay-Z. What was the name of his first record company? It was Rockefeller Records, a play on the name of billionaire John D. Rockefeller. And of course, Jay-Z, Rihanna, Elon Musk, Kanye West, all billionaires, and we love them. So I disagree with Charlamagne right out of the gate. That's his politics talking. That's not his common sense. I like Kevin Hart. Of course I like his funny interviews, but I really like his serious interviews. Every interview I've ever seen him in, I always walk away with a positive vibe. That being said, he said some things I agree with, and he says some things I disagree with. I'm mostly in agreement with Kevin. What I found most interesting is Kevin's response when Charlamagne asked him why he wants to become a billionaire. I found it interesting because I listened closely to everything Kevin said. And the reason I listened so closely is because most of us feel we have to apologize for being successful or for having money. I wanted to see, was he going to fall into that line of thinking? And for a second there, it seemed like he was going to fall into that line of thinking because he appeared to be contradicting himself. The first reason he gives for wanting to be a billionaire is he says, it's really more about the title that comes with it, which at first I wrote off as totally meaningless. I sincerely thought he was just trying to minimize the financial aspect and make it about just having a title. Another reason he gave is he just wants to let people know that it's doable. I can see that. Jay-Z said the same thing in one of his songs. I do this for my culture. Yes, there are already black billionaires, but the more billionaires there are, the more we can possibly shed this mindset that we don't have choices, because we always have a choice. His next two statements are when I started to wonder if Kevin was actually contradicting himself. He said his desire to become a billionaire wasn't about the dollar, it was about the achievement. Then right after that, he says, if you want to be part of real change, with that dollar, your change starts to be different. The first thing that crossed my mind is, how can you say the desire to be a billionaire isn't about the dollar? What other metric when it comes to achieving this matters, if not the financial metric? I mean, people don't call you a billionaire just because you're a nice guy, right? The title comes because on some level, the dollars do matter, at least in the form of net worth. So in my view, he was saying the dream really wasn't about the dollar, but then he turns right around and says, with that dollar comes real change. And I was like, what? I was like, come on, Kevin, you're usually a pretty straight shooter. Are you just trying to be politically correct about the fact that you really just want to have the word billionaire after your name? Because if he did, there'd be nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying you don't have to find a politically correct way to say it. So for a second, I thought I was in disagreement with Kevin because I thought he was tap dancing around what he really felt. It took me a second to figure out what Kevin was really trying to say. And then it hit me. He wasn't trying to tap dance. He was trying to explain a concept that not everyone understands. I heard 50 Cent explain it a long time ago, except Kevin didn't explain it the exact same way.
It's like, all right, you're at the light. Funny, we're sitting in that position too. Like you pull up to the light in a Bentley, you got a Musan. You're just like smooth. 2013, and I pull up at the light in a hoopty. I'm in a Dodge. 93 Dodge Caravan. I didn't wash it. And I'm telling you, roll the window down. Roll the window down. And you look over. And you don't roll your window down. He won't roll his window down. Take the same scenario, you put that guy in that Bentley at the light, and the guy pulls up next to him in a Ferrari and says, hey, roll the window down. He'll roll the window down. Because it was a choice. Mm-hmm. But he feels like you may have something to say of value to me just on presentation. So, you know, like I say this to younger actual, guys out there to kind of fit the description. Like if I was going somewhere and it wasn't, I have to be conscious of it. I can't do the three-piece when I'm there as 50 Cent. Mm-hmm. Because then the audience will look at you like their parents, instead of the actual artist that they appreciate. But if you actually want to make the window roll down, you have to fit the description.
My wife and I used to live in a 6,000 square foot house. We had 2 grown kids living with us, but even with 4 of us living in a house, 6,000 square feet was a lot. At some point we moved, but my wife used to talk about the fact that once our kids got grown and moved out, it would really just be she and I in a big old 6,000 square foot house. But I used to tell her all the time that I miss living there. And not for the reason that you may think, not for the reason that she used to think. We got invited to something called a progressive dinner one night. I don't know if you've ever been to one of those where you meet at one person's house and you all have appetizers. And then all of the neighbors leave that house and you go down to the next house for the main course. And then when you finish, you leave that person's house and you go down to the next neighbor's house for the dessert. It was eye-opening for me. I didn't care that much about the house as much as I enjoyed talking to my neighbors, finding out what they do for a living, and how they thought. For an entrepreneur, this was heaven. All Kevin was trying to say is being a billionaire is just another way to open doors to have conversations on a different level. Another question Charlamagne asked was whether Kevin felt the need or pressure to take care of everybody. It was actually refreshing to hear Kevin's view on this.
Speaking of that, when black people become financially successful, they usually feel like a sense of responsibility to take care of everybody in their family, their neighborhood, their community. Do you feel that pressure? And is it fair?
No. You can't do that shit. You'll go crazy. Trying to make everybody happy. I told you, it's about fulfilling your obligation for self, for you. I know that I'm a part of a solution. I know that I'm a black CEO chairman, and I know that I'm now a partner to the biggest companies in entertainment. If I continue to do it right, if I continue to do it correctly, well, the opportunities for people of color are going to grow. You know, Tyler Perry, Oprah, Hove, people are doing it right. And the conversation of opportunity is changing, it's growing. So we're examples of what to do. I'm now a part of what to do. If that entity grows, well, then I got a door and I'm saying, come on through, come here. That's my purpose. That's myself. I'm not, you know, I'm not looking to do it for anyone else or anyone else's approval. This is me knowing what my reason for being here is and finding happiness in that. That's it. It's that simple. So when you talk about financial success and take care, no, absolutely not.
Listen, I loved MC Hammer. I even used to own a pair of those big pants at one point, but I disagreed with his version of helping the community. In Hammer's heyday, there's footage of Hammer going on tour with maybe 30 people, all on the payroll, all having to eat, all staying in hotels. I love him to death, but it's no mystery that this is at least one of the reasons he had to file for bankruptcy. And this is the reason why I make these videos. If you notice, I try to stay away from disparaging remarks on my channel. It's tough to do sometimes, but more often than not, I'm not making judgments on individuals as much as I'm making judgments on their policies. In Hammer's case, he seemed like a great person. I probably like him personally, but I never liked that policy of just bringing people along whether they provided value or not. It seemed communist in nature to me, and just like communism, it failed. Later in the interview, Kevin talks about the importance of people learning what to do with money once you obtain it. That's definitely true, because Hammer went through this phase of buying a racehorse. He even promoted Evander Holyfield for a little while. It's usually never just one thing that leads to your downfall financially. It's a lot of little things. To Hammer's credit, though, he didn't always just give people money like people always say. I do remember when he tried to pave the way for rap groups like 357 and singer B. In my view, if there's any way to help people, that's the way you do it. By giving people the opportunity to prove themselves like Kevin Hart did for Tiffany Haddish. I think this is something blacks still struggle with because a lot of us honestly don't believe in free market principles. That is, to not force an issue through government, but to build paths of opportunity. We don't explicitly say we don't believe in the free market, but you can hear it in our words come election time. Phrases like, "What are you going to do for us?" are usually indicative of some sort of new regulation we're trying to push through or funding we expect from an elected official, as opposed to deregulation and the creation of opportunity. Looking back on this interview, I was in agreement with Kevin all the way up until this last segment about financial freedom.
But you mentioned Hove. Hove once said financial freedom is our only hope. Do you feel that way?
Hove is a very intelligent man, and I think what he means by that is, you know, closing the gap within our economy, right? You know, when you talk about our culture and you talk about just financial literacy, you talk about the lack of information, the lack of knowledge, well, it doesn't come because we aren't smart. It comes because we have to search for the information. It's not provided for us. And 9 times out of 10, the discovery comes when we're 30 years old. So we're behind almost 15 years from white America, and when money is explained and what you're supposed to do, how you're supposed to operate, and how you go get it. It's not the same. So when he's talking about financial freedom, I think it's also embedded in the world of information, knowledge of what to do once you obtain money. Because it's not about making the money, it's about taking care of things when you have it. And we, as a culture, don't do it correctly because of what our world is. If you look at black communities, the crazy thing is you'll see a check cashing place, a liquor store, chicken spot, a sneaker store, and a cell phone store that doesn't accept credit, all cash, because that's where they expect us to go. So they say if you get a check, you'll cash it and you'll go down this row, and that check will be gone. So you're set up to lose, and we don't see it, we don't realize it. And those places that live in the hood are owned and operated by people that aren't us. So the smarter that you get, and when your eyes start to open differently, you start to look at the world that we've been embedded in and how we're set up to lose.
There are a few things he said that I disagreed with. He said financial freedom means closing the gap with white people. I disagree with that. One of the first things I wish we'd do is quit putting white people on a pedestal. In a sense, we're walking around with our own self-imposed prejudice without realizing it. Every white person isn't rich, just like every black person isn't poor. Even using language like that implies an inherent inferiority. When Jay-Z first started as a rapper, P. Diddy was ahead of him in fame and in money. Do you think Jay-Z was ever concerned with closing the gap between him and P. Diddy? Or do you think he just said in his mind, I don't really care where you are right now, I'm the best? In the process of Jay-Z knowing he was the best, he surpassed P. Diddy in net worth. Do you think Tyler Perry was trying to close the gap between himself and Hollywood? Or do you think that Tyler Perry said, Georgia's dirt is just as good as California's dirt. Why would I go all the way to California when I'm the best director in the game? If I live in Georgia, I'm going to build a studio here in Georgia. I'm willing to bet it was the latter. And in the process of being the best, Tyler Perry built a studio larger than Disney, Warner Brothers, and Paramount combined. Am I making sense? Quit worrying about closing the gap and worry about being the best you. I make videos all the time about policies that hurt us, and I explain why, and yet people still vote for them. That's not being the best you. That's not using common sense. That's following tradition without ever questioning why. Kevin further goes on to say that we have this financial gap because we have to search for financial information. It's not provided for us. With all due respect, unless you happen to travel in wealthy circles already, that applies to all of us. Listen, we're in an information age. This isn't the days of television anymore where somebody selected your programming. You get to choose what you spend your time watching. The old adage, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, applies here. I disagree that information isn't provided. Information's been out here for a long time. The question is whether or not you're ready to receive it. It's not a matter of intelligence, it's more of a question of mindset. Kevin said we don't know what to do with our money because of what our world is. Liquor stores, payday loans, check cashing places. I understand what he's saying here, but not enough emphasis is put on what our role is in all of this. This is like the riddle, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Which came first, the liquor store in your community or your desire to be drunk? The way markets work is if someone opens a liquor store in your community and you consistently patronize them, they'll come back and even expand in your neighborhood. If they open up and you don't support them, they'll close and go somewhere else. Both scenarios are controlled by your response. This is not my opinion, this is how business works. We're long overdue to drop the we're set up to lose conversation and pick up the this is how you win conversation. To me, a loser conversation is the one about America being systemically racist. First of all, America isn't a person, so let's start there. There are roughly 330 million of us from every walk of life in virtually every country. To call America systemically racist is BS. What you do have are some policies put in place by some people who have been racist, but that's not indicative of our country. But let's push politics aside for a moment. I got tired of hearing this kind of talk. So here's what I did. I did some research on my own. I researched how many black billionaires there are, not just in the United States, but in the world. Then I went through the list because everyone Google calls black isn't black. So after finding these people on YouTube, I took some people off the list. Once I got a real list, I went back and looked at each billionaire. Where did they make their money? In Rihanna's case, they have her listed as being from Barbados, but let's be honest, she didn't have any real fame or money until she came here. I went down the list, putting a flag next to each person. I did this exercise because Thomas Sowell always said there are 3 questions the arguments on the left can't stand up to. 1, compared to what? 2, at what cost? 3, what are the hard facts? I wanted to have the answer to these so we can finally put this garbage to rest. So what were the results? The results were a total of 15 black billionaires. 1 from Canada, 1 from Zimbabwe, 1 from South Africa, 4 from Nigeria, and 8 from America. Let me say this another way, because Zimbabwe, South Africa, Nigeria, they're all Africa. So the results were, out of 15, 1 is from Canada, 6 are from Africa, and 8 are from America. So let's go back and answer this question again the way Thomas Sowell would want us to. So is America systemically racist? I would start by asking the question, compared to who? Too many times when the left says America is racist, they're implying that there's someplace else you can go that's just like heaven where everyone is colorblind. All I'm asking now is, where is this mystical place? Because this data comes from planet Earth. And on Earth, at least financially, America has produced more black billionaires than even Africa. So if America's job is to hold black people down, we're doing a horrible job of it because we're leading the way in cranking out black billionaires. I'll skip question 2 here because I'm not sure if it's relevant, and I'll go right to question number 3. So the hard facts are, America produces 33% more black billionaires than even Africa. Let that sink in. I love calling out stuff like this because it should make you question some of the BS we hear from the mainstream media as though it's true. Take a good look at this list. For my brothers and sisters out there watching this right now, who's missing from this list? The answer is Robert Johnson. Bob Johnson sold BET to Viacom back in 2001 for $3 billion. After taxes, etc., he was left with somewhere around $1.3 billion. My point? Stop running around saying silly stuff about people being part of the Illuminati or part of the evil 1%. Because the truth of the matter is, this 1% we keep hearing about isn't some unchanging group of evil people who run the world. So as you can see here, back in 2001, Bob Johnson made the cut, but in 2022, he didn't make the cut. So what happened? Did they kick him out of the Illuminati? Quit saying stupid stuff like that. It's this kind of loser talk that stems from leftist politicians who want you to hate anyone who has more money than you. Once we start having an honest conversation about where this mindset comes from, then we'll start seeing an increase in financial intelligence, and not just in the United States, but globally. Well, we'll never get it all, but we unpacked a lot. In this episode, we discussed whether or not America actually despises billionaires, or is this a political party just trying to push their beliefs on America? We talked about why Kevin Hart wants to be a billionaire. It took me a while, but I understand him a lot better now, and I actually agree with him. There's something to be said for being in the mix. You learn a lot, and it's not just about money either. We discussed whether blacks have a responsibility to take care of our people. The answer is no to the take care of part for sure. I think the best that can be expected is for someone to help minimize the hurdles for the people that follow them, and there are a lot of different ways to do that. Even then, that's not an obligation. It's just a nice to have that should be appreciated. Finally, we addressed the accusation that America is somehow systemically racist. There were a lot of different ways to answer that question, but since today's topic was about Kevin Hart wanting to be a billionaire, we crushed that argument from a finance and opportunity perspective. But we also talked about it briefly from a logical perspective. Listen, America is representative of virtually every country on the planet. Let that sink in as you try to think of another country that has ever opened their doors like that to any and everyone on the planet. The answer again is no. You may not have been paying attention, but today marks my 20th show. We've completed the first season of podcast and soapbox news shows. Thank you to all of you who have supported my show. I'm really surprised we gotten this far without getting more shows pulled. We had one show pulled and we challenged YouTube and we got it back. But hey, we've got a long way to go. I can't wait for you to see what I got planned for season 2 this year. And that's where I'll leave it for now. If you're new around here, our channel is both a combination of podcasts, long-form understanding of conservative principles, and soapbox news, videos where you get to get on your soapbox about the latest news of the day. Be sure you like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who should have been here today. We'll see you next time.